y'all boys, it's your girl Jumoke back again with another video. Okay, so I don't want to dilly-dally too much because this is going to be a very long video, but I wanted to come on and talk to you all about Wilderness Training 101. So please take some notes because you're going to need this later, or bookmark this video, favorite it, like it, put it in a playlist, whatever you got to do. But this is going to be instrumental. If you are someone who is currently in the wilderness right now and you need some understanding, definitely do keep watching. And for those of y'all who want to be putting spark notes in the comments, like dang, like y'all be annoying. As a content creator, I'm hurt, okay? And also, don't be giving people no shortcuts. Like, let them listen, you know what I'm saying? Let them get their revelation. But anyways, let's go straight into it, all right? So as I mentioned in the last video, I talked about like how I'm listening to secular music anymore because I'm not in the wilderness, right? So this keeps coming up like here and there. Like I had a mentee ask me, she says, so what is your review on the wilderness? Like, what would you rate it? And I've had a couple of you message me after that video saying, can you please do a video about wilderness? If you probably commented or someone messaged me as well. So I do want to talk about it. For me, I was in the wilderness for a couple of years, okay? I will explain how I got into the wilderness, and I'll explain what it is. So before I go into my story, I think I'm gonna intertwine my story while I'm answering questions. So what exactly is the wilderness? I do want to explain that there is a difference between a sanctification period and a wilderness period. A lot of people think that they go through multiple wildernesses in their life, or not exactly. There's a difference. I know one of my mentees, she is currently being ushered into her wilderness. I think she's in her wilderness right now, but she just started. And she's like, oh, I thought I was already done with this. Like, I thought I already went through this whole wilderness season with God. Like, dang, I'm going in again. And I said, that wasn't the wilderness. So I do want to clarify that. So when you get saved, or you are born again, or you rededicate your life to Christ, you go through a period is what is called sanctification or consecration, purification, whatever you want to call it. It's just basically the stripping away and the making you holy part. So a lot of times when you rededicate your life to Christ, or you start taking your walk more seriously, you just get saved, you may feel as if you are in a wilderness. Like you may, I don't know, like friendships start dropping left and right. Like your taste and your desires begin to change. Like you might have more of a desire to read the word, to spend time with God. You might spend times like maybe alone and you're trying to figure out this whole faith thing out. That is normal. But again, that's not the wilderness. So some people think that is because if you ever seen someone who got saved, right? And how they are yesterday versus how they are today, and you'd be like, wow, that person did like almost like a 180. That person was smoking weed, they were doing drugs, they were sleeping around, they were partying, they were drinking, all that stuff, blase. They were looking like this, being promiscuous, whatever the case is, and then they start taking their walk seriously. You will start noticing immediate changes in that person, and that person may start to you know what I'm saying, maybe isolate from their worldly friends. They're trying to maybe find a new community, probably reading more, praying more. You're kind of like, okay, what's going on with this person? But again, that is not the wilderness. That's really just going through a season of sanctification, and you are just, you know, it's like a new relationship. When you actually come to God, it's like, okay, again, I said this before in a post, but someone said, but God is love, and I said, I never said he wasn't love, but you have to understand that God is holy. And God loves you, but he loves you too much to keep you where you are, or to allow you to stay how you are. Part of God's love is making you holy. So it will come a time that you will go through like a lot of rebukes, a lot of correction. Like it's just kind of like bam, like everything is hitting you all at the same time. And yeah, so that's basically sanctification, consecration season. So what is the difference between that type of season versus a wilderness season? So when it comes to a wilderness season is when you answer the calling of God on your life. Oh my goodness, I didn't get my pen. Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, so, okay. So when you go into a wilderness season, it's really you answering the call of God on your life. So I'm going to give an example using pencil, right? So I want to explain the difference between a calling and a purpose, because I think we use it interchangeably. I always use this example because it's the best way to understand. If you look at this pencil has different components. It has a plastic covering, it has an eraser, and it has some lead. But the purpose of this pencil is to write, okay? If we look at this pen, it got some plastic, it has some ink, and it writes as well, right? Both of these have the same purpose, but how they write looks differently, okay? So as believers, we all have the same purpose, which is to bring heaven on earth. But how that looks different for each person based on your individual calling. Some people are called to marriage, they're called to motherhood, they're called to entrepreneurship, they're called to be professionals, they're called to be business owners, they're called to be ministers. So there's so many different callings on earth, but all that comes together for a unique and divine purpose on earth, okay? So let me go back to my story, right? Now, I got saved in 2014. Now, when I got saved in 2014, y'all, I went straight into it. I was like, man, I was reading the Bible, I was praying. I even started, the Lord even told me to start a ministry, like a praise dance ministry. So again, I thought I was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in college, blase, whatever, things happen. And then the day before my 24th birthday, before the 24th hour, okay, I remember I was praying and I was like, wow, thanks God for life and blase. If you've been following me for some time, then you know that I have this one video called A Proverbs 31 Woman Is Me, and I analyzed the Proverbs 31 woman. I don't know if this came before or after me taking notes on the Proverbs 31 woman. I don't know if that came before or after this particular moment, but there was a moment in time, y'all, that I was in prayer. Again, this is the day before my 24th birthday, and the Lord gave me a quick glimpse of my future life. I can't even explain to you, I can't describe what was in the vision. I can't give you details. If you're prophetic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was something that was a bit surreal, and it really brought me to my knees, and I just cried. I said, me? That's the kind of life you're calling to me? Little me? And I remember it was just something in my spirit was like, I want that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Lord, that's who you're calling me to be? I agree. There was something in my spirit that agreed with the purpose that God had called me to. Again, I can't tell you exactly what was in that vision. I just knew in my heart, it just was so quick, but it was like, whoa. It was a whoa. So when it comes to a wilderness period, right? Now, an actual wilderness should be something that it's something that comes after you agreeing with the calling of God on your life. So and it doesn't have to be at one particular moment like it was with me. You may just become a bit more interested or curious about what God is calling you to. So maybe you're like, you know what, God, I really wasn't thinking about marriage or whatever, because I don't see anyone in my family that's married and happy, but I'm kind of interested. Is that something you have for me? Or maybe motherhood, Lord, I was not trying to have no kids. I don't want no girls because I'm really hurt. And I went through a lot, and my mom, I don't want my kids to go through the same thing, but I'm starting to feel a bit of a tugging in the area of motherhood. It's Lord, I ain't trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm just trying to live a comfortable life. I want to work a 9 to 5, the end, blase. But, I think you're calling me to start a business. I'm a little curious about that. I'm curious about these things, right? You have some type of curiosity when it comes to the individual things that God's calling you to. Maybe you never thought about being a minister or being in ministry, but there's something that's pulling you more to the area of ministry that you can't really explain it, but it's a stronger tug than other people around you to be involved in the things of God or in ministry. So it might just be something like that. And again, it doesn't have to be this oh yeah, God, so I agree, blah blah blah. It's just what I'm saying, it's just something in your spirit is now agreeing and partnering with God's purpose in your life. Okay, so that's the reason why you do go through a wilderness. So that's the reason why you do go through a wilderness. Now, what are you going to learn in the wilderness? Okay. And why this wilderness is different than just a sanctification process. So what you'll learn in the wilderness really depends on your calling. Okay, so let's go back to the whole thing with marriage. If you're someone who's called into marriage, there's a lot of different things that you may learn in the wilderness. You may have to understand marriage. You may have to, understand sexual purity. You may have to understand unconditional love and how to love other people. You may learn how to communicate, I'm saying, just different things you may learn. If you're called as an entrepreneur, you may have to learn things like integrity, things like excellence, things like being able to do something without having somebody over you, like a physical person over you, that now it's like, okay, how can you learn as God being your supervisor? If you're a kingdom entrepreneur, right, you would have to learn different things as far as how to partner with God when it comes to the area of business. If you're a professional, God's calling you as a professional, you're going to have to learn how does that look like being a professional in a kingdom type of thing. Okay, so you have to just learn different things. Now that goes into the next thing. All right, and here it comes convictions. You will have a lot of personal convictions in the wilderness that it just won't leave you, and it will just keep like it will just keep which is why I say it's different from just a regular sanctification period, because there's some things, just as any mature believer, we all do. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some things like giving, or there's some things like exhibiting the fruits of the spirit. There's there's some things that's just every Christian believer that is maturing is going to go through or is already operating in. But when it comes to your specific callings, you're going to have very just specific convictions. So I mentioned in my last video, I didn't really realize that the Lord was preparing me for the office of a prophet, but looking back, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So for me, being called to that office and also being called as a deliverance prophet, there was a lot of convictions that I had. I had convictions, like I said, praying in tongues for 1 hour for a whole month. I don't know, like towards the end I was like, but I did my best. I did try to keep that conviction for a month. What else did I have to do? Like I said, I was not consuming a lot of media in general. So even when it comes to Christian music, I was only listening to that in praise and worship. I wasn't listening to people's sermons. I wasn't consuming Christian, just blogs and things like that. So yeah, just a lot of convictions. So also like I have a conviction to not drink alcohol, which I did not go back to God and ask him. It's like, can I drink alcohol again? Like, which I mean, I was never really into alcohol like that. I was like more of a social drinker, I mentioned previously. But I feel like now I'm out of the wilderness, I probably could drink wine or something like that if I wanted to. But in the wilderness, I definitely had that conviction to not drink alcohol, to not do a lot of different things. So that doesn't mean that my convictions was everyone else's conviction. Like God was not calling everybody in the whole world to speak in tongues for 1 hour a day. You know what I'm saying? Like God was not calling every person, every believer to stop listening to secular music. He wasn't calling every believer. I remember y'all, like in the wilderness, I was looking so basic. And someone actually messaged me on social media and said that, wow, you have the same convictions I did. I was called, as a prophet as well. And she said she had this conviction of like, dressing more conservatively, but then eventually like it lifted from her. She was able to go back to what she was dressing to before. And she was like, what, God? And I said, wow, that's crazy. Like a lot of people probably think like I'm wilding on social media, but I'm like, nah, like this is actually how I dressed before I was in the wilderness. But it's just, so you may have different convictions. You may have, like I said, as an entrepreneur, like you may have to be a little bit more rigid with boundaries and time management and things like that. So yes, definitely when it comes to your convictions, that is something you definitely want to follow when you are in the wilderness, okay? Then the next thing we have to talk about, okay, is deliverance and inner healing. So when it comes to deliverance and inner healing, everybody needs deliverance and inner healing. Now, everyone may not come to the same revelation and they may, receive it differently, but I think everyone needs deliverance and inner healing. This is something I always tell the women in my ministry is you cannot draw from one, an empty well, which has to do with boundaries, and two, from a tainted well. I stress so much, especially to the leaders, that if you do not heal, your wound will pour into everything that you do unconsciously. So if you have not healed from like parental wounds, if you haven't been delivered from like rejection and pride and offense and manipulation and control and Jezebel and Leviathan and poverty, and you know what I'm saying, like all these things will pour into everything you do. It will pour into your marriage, it will pour into your parenting, it will pour into your ministry, it will pour into like your entrepreneurship, it will pour into everything that you do if you do not get healed. Okay, so personally, and I'm gonna give you a cheat sheet. Not everyone goes this way, but I think this is the best thing to do, is to go through deliverance, whether you do self-deliverance or you want to go through a deliverance ministry or a deliverance minister, but you need deliverance. You need to actually cast those things out of you, and then I believe in doing the work of inner healing. Okay, sometimes in deliverance, at least the deliverance that I do with people, it is inner healing. There's an element of inner healing because it's not just me saying, okay, you leave, but like I'm actually trying to get to the bottom, get to the root of it. It's like, okay, rejection, where'd you come from? Oh, her father. Well, I'm with her father. Oh, her father struggled with the same thing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's a bloodline issue. Boom. And with you having that revelation, that brings upon healing. And it's like, let's say anger, where'd you come from? Bullying when she was a child. I said, okay, that's the open door. You know what I'm saying? Like she has inner anger because of bullying or X, Y, and Z, or this is a bloodline issue, or this was a traumatic issue, or this was because of the parents, or this was because of the childhood. Like it's really important to understand these things and to receive the revelation that comes out of it, so that you can walk forward. But I know some people, like, they jump straight to therapy, which I love therapy. I'm in therapy. I'm learning a lot about myself in therapy. So I do believe in therapy, and I'm not going to get into this whole rabbit hole because, yes, I know there's new age therapists. Yes, I know you have to be discerning. But again, being discerning doesn't mean you just close off everything that doesn't have Jesus written blanketly on it. And also there's Christian therapists as well. So you can go and get a Christian therapist, yes, definitely some people the Lord has raised up in this time to be able to help people with those issues and counsel them through in a more professional manner. So I'm all about therapy, but I told somebody, and I was like, listen, therapy ain't about to get no demon penis out of you. Okay. And it's like, I'm laughing, but this is actually a real thing. I probably casted this thing out like 3 times. There's some people who have demon penises inside of them spiritually, and they know it and they feel it, and they're, it's kind of awkward. They have sexual dreams, but it's like they know that there's something still there. But yeah, therapy ain't about to get rid of that. If you went through things in like occultism, like astrology, horoscopes, secret society, Freemasons, fraternity, sororities, all that stuff, and if you went through all of that, it's definitely important to get deliverance. Because those things, they go a lot deeper than you think. Therapy ain't about to get rid of no succubus. Ain't about to get rid of no incubus, no marine spirit, no spirit spouse. You need deliverance. All right. Definitely need deliverance. But then yes, you have to do the work of inner healing through the wilderness. So when you get triggered by something, press into that in the wilderness. Like, don't wait until like the Lord elevates you and exposes you, and then it's like, then you're trying to fix yourself. Like, come on, like press into that. Why are you uncomfortable with accepting things from other people? Why are you uncomfortable with the Lord elevating you? Why are you uncomfortable trusting God in certain areas of your life? Why are you uncomfortable when it comes to staying committed in friendships? Why do you drop people all the time? Why do you just, this person made me feel this way, boom. Like, what are you trying to protect from yourself? Why are you uncomfortable with accountability? You know what I'm saying? Like, all these different things you definitely have to press into when you are in the wilderness. Okay, so now let's start talking scripture. Okay. Talked a lot about, different things, but now let's talk scripture. Okay, so when it comes to the wilderness, depending on your callings, you will have to go through a series of 3 tests. 3 tests. I'm giving you a cheat sheet, y'all. 3 tests. Now, these 3 tests, what it's really going to do, it's going to challenge rejection, lust, and pride. Okay, so let's read 1 John 2:16. Okay, 1 John 2:16. Actually, I'll do from 1 John 2:15 to 16. All right. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world. Amen. So, like I said, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life, and also rejection. So now I want to go into the scripture as well. Matthew 4:1-11. I'm going to read it, piece by piece. I'm going to break down the different tests. So we're talking about Jesus being tested in the wilderness. So this is Jesus going into the wilderness right after he got baptized. Okay, and it's really important to know again, which is the reason why I'm saying that a consecration season is not the same thing as a wilderness. Jesus only went through one wilderness, okay? But you have to understand that he didn't go straight from the womb. Oh, he popped out, then he became, he started his earthly ministry. He did not start his earthly ministry until he was 30 years old. And part of the reason why is because when it comes to Jewish tradition, you cannot be a priest until you were 30 years old. So yeah, Jesus was in the, the temple when he was, how old was he? He was 12, right? But that was not the start of his ministry. He wasn't leading people and healing people when he was 12 years old. His time had not yet come. Once he agreed with the call of God on his life, and he got baptized, and the Lord opened up heaven and said, "This is my son whom I am well pleased." Then after that, the Spirit of God led him into the wilderness for intense, testing. Okay, so let's start in Matthew 4:1. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Let's pause there. The first test, okay, is to turn your stones into bread. Now, what is that test actually testing you on? It is testing you on submission and surrender, okay? Submission and surrender. Now, catch this. Jesus was already fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, and the Bible says he was hungry. Jesus had a genuine need, right? And because he is the son of God, he had the power to turn stones into bread. But he was more submitted to God's plan and for God to provide for him than he was in his own ability, right? So now what does that look like? Okay, what does that look like? Let me give you practical things, because I'm all about being very practical. Let's say if you're someone who's called to a kingdom marriage, not just a Christian marriage, not just an earthly marriage. If you want to know what a kingdom marriage is, you can watch my video. I have a video, what is kingdom marriage? Let's say you're called to a kingdom marriage, right? And in this season in the wilderness, you will be single. Single, all right? Most of us who are called to a kingdom marriage, you will have a period of time that you will be single. Now, in your singleness, you will have a genuine need, or not need, a genuine desire for marriage. You will actually want to get married. You will actually want to be with a man. You will actually want these things. Like, it's a genuine need, like you're single. You know what I'm saying? But the Lord may be sustaining you as far as intimacy with him, and probably maybe a covenant friend and community. And that is what you're getting in this season, because in the wilderness, you will have just enough. The Lord will provide for you, even emotionally and all those things, but it will be in a very specific way. It's not going to be in abundance. You're not going to have someone to sleep around to whenever you feel like it. You're not going to have someone to cake with all day, all night. You're just going to have just enough. You won't die, but you will have just enough. And this is testing your submission and your surrender. Have you actually submitted this area of your life to God? Okay. Have you submitted this area of your life to God? All right. And let's say if you're called as an entrepreneur. All right. And turning your stones into bread can look like, I don't know, it could look like having, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot about the whole thing with kingdom marriage. Now, you may have a genuine desire for marriage, but actually turning your stones into bread looks like going on Tinder and trying to find someone, or just, you know what I'm saying? Oh, let me just go and pick up someone. Even though the Lord said you're supposed to be single in this season, you're trying to get into relationships prematurely because you have that genuine desire for marriage. So you're just trying to pick up somebody, so in the meantime it can fill that void and you don't have to feel single, or you don't have to have that desire anymore. But that's not what the Lord, like, that's basically failing your test. You're turning your stone into bread. Like, this is something you have the ability to do. You're cute. You can go out and get somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with you as a woman. Like, yes, people are probably overlooking you, and yes, you can do stuff to go and get somebody, but maybe that's not what God wants for you in this season. Like I said, with entrepreneurship, it could just look like, maybe, I have an audience already. And why am I sitting here with not a lot of money? I can literally just make stuff and do stuff for money, and they're gonna buy it because I have an audience that trusts me already. That is turning your stones into bread, okay? like it's not the season for that. And the Lord, again, may be trying to sustain you with, you know, just enough finances, maybe through a means that you don't like, maybe through your parents, maybe through a part-time job, maybe through a hobby. Maybe that's what He's trying to sustain you with in this season. And you have the ability to go out and get, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have the ability to go out and get a job, but the Lord is closing doors, but you keep trying to push down that door. Like, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to start working. I'm going to get a job. And Lord may not call you to that. You will just be trying hard. You think that something is wrong with you, but it's not that something is wrong with you, but stop trying to turn your stone into bread. Be sustained by God. Jesus said that man should not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Did the mouth of God tell you to go out and get a job right now? No. Did the mouth of God say go out and get into a relationship right now? No. So just little things like that can look like turning your stones into bread. Let's continue into the second test. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands, and you will not strike your foot against a stone. Jesus said to him, it is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Let's pause right there. Now the next test is the test of jumping off of the temple. Okay. Now, let's break this down, because if you're just reading a regular Bible, you don't have context. But this temptation is actually really interesting, because back then in the Jewish tradition, it was believed that the Messiah would come and reveal Himself in like a supernatural way, right? That He would come just like, hey, I'm the Messiah. So for Him to jump off of the temple and not be harmed would prove to other people that He is the Messiah. But that is not how God wanted to elevate Jesus Christ. He wanted Him to prove Himself as the Messiah on the cross, not from jumping the temple, right? So that's a very interesting temptation. Now, what does that look like when you jump off of a temple? That looks like trying to, I forgot. This, what's it called? This test is testing you on manipulation and control, okay? On releasing manipulation and control. So a lot of people unknowingly, they operate under a spirit of manipulation, control, sometimes Jezebel, usually like Jezebel's within it. But that looks like trying to prove to others who God said you already are. You don't got to prove to nobody who God is. That is the trying to elevate yourself in an illegitimate way. That is not the way that God wanted you to be elevated or revealed. So for example, if you're called to a kingdom marriage, right? And the Lord may even tell you who your kingdom spouse is, but it's not the time. So failing this test looks like operating in manipulation, control, and trying to seduce that person. Trying to throw hints like, hey, hint, nudge, nudge. Trying to, show the goods, and you know what I'm saying? Trying to show the goods and trying to be close and trying to talk to that person and trying to text that person, trying to be all up in that face so that they see you, and maybe even telling them like the Lord said we're gonna get married, blah, 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 blah. That is manipulation and control, okay? That is trying to jump off of the temple and trying to prove yourself in illegitimate means. That looks like if you're a minister and maybe the Lord has prepared you in private, and maybe you're even called as a prophet or something, or you're really prophetic, and you're trying to prove to other people this is who you are in a public way, like trying to do stuff publicly and trying to bring attention to yourself, or trying to go to people like, hey, elevate me because I know more than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can do this, I can do that. Look at me. Like, the Lord told me that I'm going to be doing all this stuff. So you come to me instead of other people recognizing you and elevating you. Because like I said, when you are in the wilderness, people will overlook you. Yes, you're very anointed, but it's not the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can teach really well, you can preach really well, you can prophesy really well, you can cast out demons. That's great. But it's not the season for you to be exposed publicly yet. So again, failing that test will look like trying to do stuff in illegitimate means. It looks like trying to, I don't know, just even like buy things illegitimately, like getting yourself into debt just to prove a point that, well, God said I was going to have this, so I'm going to get it now, and blah, 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 blah. It looks like trying to get, like, you know, be around certain people so that you can be more famous, and you're trying to use people to elevate yourself. You're trying to kind of step on top of people so that you can get to the top, because the Lord said you're going to get to the top. So, oh, this person has this gift. Oh, this person has a platform. I'm going to try to get close to her. I'm going to try to get close to this platform so that everyone can see me, and then everyone can elevate me. That is failing your second test. Okay? That's failing your second test. So, that's the second test. All right? So now let's talk about the third test. Okay? Okay. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you bow down and worship me. Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, or depart from me, Satan, or get thee behind me, Satan, okay? For it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended him, okay? So, the last test is basically bow to Satan. Okay, now what is this actually testing? This is testing if you will compromise or if you will keep integrity. Okay, so this is really all about shortcuts, and it's unfortunate, like a lot of people compromise in different things and they take shortcuts, and really, again, it's just a lack of integrity. So how does this look like in an example? It looks like, I don't know, like let's say again you're called to kingdom marriage, and failing this last test would be, I don't know, falling into like sexual sin or things like that, or thinking that you have to do that in order to be married. Like, I have to sleep with this man in order for the Lord to give me a kingdom marriage. No, you don't. You don't have to sin to get something that is already yours. You don't have to do that. Because it's funny, because he's saying that, oh, I'm going to give you all of this, but the whole world belongs to Jesus anyways. Like, that was already his, you know? So there's some things that are already yours, and you don't have to compromise to get it. It may take longer to get somewhere, but you don't have to rush something and be out of your timing to do something. And again, that's just basically like bowing to something. For example, like if you have a business and the Lord may want you to have like integrity in it, it looks like, again, taking shortcuts and not operating in excellence, or maybe bowing to tradition of men. Like, it's interesting because I see a lot of influencers and celebrities who are Christian, and unfortunately I feel like they failed the last test, which is bowing to Satan. And it's not so much of like they're doing it intentionally, because here's the thing, there are only two kingdoms to operate, you know. There are only two kingdoms to operate, and sometimes, again, people have to, they think they have to sin to get something, or they think they have to compromise and they have to be of the world, conform to the pattern of this world in order to achieve something that the Lord said was already theirs. I see a lot of Christian celebrities, and it's like, man, they be really feeling when people say, so do you believe that homosexuality is a sin? And you have a lot of believers who be like, well, I don't know, I don't think so. Like, come on, man. Like, it's just things like that. It's like, okay, well, in order for the world to like me, I have to compromise when it comes to my views and my beliefs. No, you don't. No, you do not. You know, No, you do not. And it's like, sometimes it's a people-pleasing type of thing that the Lord may try to reveal from you. But yeah, it's just testing your compromise and your integrity. Like, will you stay will you just stay committed, and will you stay strong and solid on that firm foundation, which is the Lord? So that's basically the last test. Okay, so yeah, those are the 3 tests that you are going to go through. Now, if you noticed, all of these tests had to do with identity. If you saw that how Satan, every single time that he asked Jesus a question, it was, if you are the Son of God. It was always an if. And I always say this, I say this to everybody, but it is a very dangerous place to be when you don't know who you are, but the devil knows who you are. It's a very dangerous place to be. That if you don't know the power and the authority that you have, and the enemy knows, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And this thing, again, like I said, that triple threat: rejection, pride, lust. Rejection, pride, lust. You got to get through that in the wilderness, but you have to be solid in your identity as a son of God. Okay? As a child of the Most High, you have to be firm in your identity. That you can't be walking around like an orphan. If you're someone who struggles with rejection and struggle with the orphan mentality, and you kind of do things on your own and you don't involve God. This is why I'm saying you need deliverance and you need inner healing. You may have to go through therapy. You may have to go through counseling. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may have to press into these discomfort, but it's not normal. Okay? It's not normal. As a child of God, you should not be walking around as if you have no parent. And sometimes it's like it seems normal because that's all you see around you, that's all you're used to. But in the wilderness, it will definitely press you to have more of a dependency on God. And when you say that, yeah, God is my Father, to actually live it, breathe it, know it. If you see, when it comes to Jesus, Jesus was already confirmed by the Father before he went to the wilderness, before he started his earthly ministry, before he started healing people, raising the dead, casting out demons. The Lord was already proud of him before he did any of that. And if you don't have that confirmation from God, and you're trying to work to gain the love and approval from God, you're backwards. Like, you're working backwards, because he already approved you before you did anything. He's not loving you because you're serving him. He don't need you to serve him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not loving you because you're perfect. He loved you and confirmed you, and he called you in your mother's womb to a purposeful life, right? Before you got there. But you have to be able to be firm in that, and to know that for yourself, and to be like, yes, I know I'm a child of God. Yes, get thee behind me, Satan. Yes, I trust in the Lord. And that's what you really have to develop in the wilderness season. Wow. I knew I knew it was going to be a very, very long video. Oh, next thing I have to discuss with you is, don't run out of your wilderness prematurely. Like I just said, I was in the wilderness for 2 years. Okay, which is, I think in the grand scheme of things, it may even be relatively short or average. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, but I mean, he was Jesus. So don't expect to be in the wilderness for 1 week and then you're out. Character development takes time. Okay, it just takes time. I know this one young gentleman, he was in the wilderness for 5 years, but part of him being in the wilderness for 5 years was because of him. He was being stubborn, and he was very prideful. And he knew God, but he was just being prideful, and the Lord dealt with him. He had his little Egyptian plagues. That man lost his hair, y'all. That was crazy. And my friend was like, are you sure it wasn't like witchcraft or nothing? He's like, nah, it was God. He said he knows his hair was falling out in patches. He said, okay, maybe if I shave it off and grow it back, then it will come back. He did that. It still was coming back patchy. He went to different people, you know what I'm saying, to figure out what was going on with his hair. Different professionals. No one can figure out anything. It wasn't until he submitted, his hair grew back. Oh my goodness. I don't know. The Lord has a really interesting way of dealing with young men. I don't know. It's just something. It's something. But yeah, that pride will get you, boy. That pride will get you. Okay? I had another, I know another person too that, again, the Lord was calling them to submission. They're like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Man, when I tell you the Lord said, I'm taking your job, I'm taking your car, boom. Like, don't let that be you. Okay, don't let that be you. It could be the easy way or it could be the hard way. So how long you stay in the wilderness is really dependent on you. and God, but really so much of you and how you just handle your test. Because if you fail, you keep failing tests, like he's not going to pass you, just got to take it again. Now, the great part about if you fail your test, it's so much easier to pass because you just failed it, right? So you can only go up from here, and you've seen the test. You've seen the questions, you know the answer, just pass your test. Like pass your test. But don't keep taking the same test over and over and over again and thinking you're gonna get out of the wilderness. Like, no. If you struggle with trusting God, you have to master that in the wilderness. If you struggle with, you know what I'm saying, like using people and just like, you struggle with greed and envy, jealousy, comparison, covetousness, you get delivered. Get delivered and then renew your mind and then pass your test. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to pass your test. Now, when you run out of your season prematurely, and I see this a lot of, especially this year, a lot of ministers have been exposed. Hey, just crazy. And when I start looking into their cases and what they have said and X, Y, and Z, and just what I'm getting just prophetically, I'm like, these people, they didn't pass their test. And they ran out of their test their wilderness prematurely. And that's the reason they're half-baked. They didn't pass, you know what I'm saying? But they're like, well, I'm done with the wilderness. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. And the Lord's going to bless it. But it shows up later as a bad character. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shows that you have not been refined. You have not been tested by the fire. When you start going through stuff in your marriage, when you're like, yeah, well, I know the Lord called me as a kingdom wife, but whatever, I'm tired of being single. Boom. Let me go on Tinder. Okay, let me go on my dates. Boom. Oh, this man wants to marry me. I ain't about to ask God. Boom. Okay. You do all that. You get married, and then after you have done kids and everything, then things don't work out, and it's like, well, what did you think? Like, what did you think? Like, the Lord was calling you into a wilderness season to prune you from all of that. But if you're gonna run out of your season prematurely, it's gonna show up later as far as character development. Not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to be real. Like, if Jesus Christ had failed those tests and came out of the wilderness, like, he would not be Messiah. Like, he would not have been Messiah, you know? So there's a lot of people who are counting on your obedience. Future generations are counting on your obedience. You know, people around you are counting on your obedience. So yeah, take your wilderness seriously. So I know this was an extremely long video, but it had to be, because it just had to be, and it had to be. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about anything that I've spoken on. I know I spoke on a lot, but let me know like the most interesting things that you felt like you've received from this video in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.